some previous and some board ideas of what Fede wanted to do, that changes the methodology and shifts things around. So knowing that you wanted Xenos on set with us, we started the conversation with Legacy, and same thing with facehuggers with a workshop, and then Alec Gillis and his team for the facehugger and the yes. So yeah, all those conversations started to happen, and then it's really trying to make all of that work on the day. And then if it doesn't work, or for example, with these amazing Xenos that the Legacy team brought, they were great, but they couldn't necessarily climb a wall or move rapidly. So then it's kind of obvious, okay, we'll have to do that digitally, and we have to match what they've done. Yeah.
And so, Shane, when were you initially brought into the project?
It was 3 o'clock on a Tuesday, and Fede called. I don't know exactly. No, that was it was a miraculous, like just out of the blue phone call that I didn't expect, because I didn't think I would ever work on an alien film again.
Your last alien film was Aliens?
Yeah, it was with those gentlemen in '86.
Yeah. Okay.
And the franchise had moved and meandered and gone from this country to that country, and I just really didn't think that we were ever going to be part of that again. So I was absolutely thrilled to do whatever and however whatever technique to make this vision come true. So after the session of just reading and absorbing the script and having conversations with Fede and then with Eric and talking about really what they said was like, break down how you would make these Xenos. What's your idea for making these Xenos? So the conclusion was that it's more or less an animatronic that's 8 feet tall, that's not human-based. And then there's a human being in a suit for certain shots, and then there's other various techniques to accomplish the overall.
Was it like sort of the
Bonroku
and Raku?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then those would all bridge with Eric's teams.
Now, was there interchangeable? Now, were all the aliens the same, of the same, essentially out of the same molds, so they had the same look?
Yeah, you make them so that they're all interchangeable. So on set, I can put this torso on that head, or those legs, and so everything is modular. And we made the domes with different patterns and different things, so we could make different individuals,
different appearance.
Yeah. And there's this what we call the sub-adult, which is the performer that comes out of the cocoon in the wall. Mm-hmm. So that was a performer, because there's so much dexterity and he has to compress his body and come through, and that's much easier to do with an actor than an animatronic piece.
There's a lot of, let me ask you this, was there any thought of doing virtual production in a volume? There's some stuff that seems to lend itself to it, but your desire to do as much in camera and practically.
Yeah, kind of the rule of thumb from the beginning was if it can be accomplished in camera, it should be, and so we really went to great extents to try. And I think that was an idea for the cockpit shots at the beginning. We were like, well, that would be great. And then it was just impossible time-wise. It would have been a nightmare. Thinking all the time that it took to really get the look right of what you see out of the windows. Would have never had that ready for principal photography to put it on the screen. So we did something that actually worked really well. We just have a panel of sky panels in different lights and tones out of the windows. So when we needed light through the window, we did that. But for the most part, it was just Eric had the idea, just like I said, we just put it black to really avoid the spill of the green screens and the blue screens. There's probably like 3 blue screens in the movie and very minor moments, so you never really get that thing. I remember showing Eric some frame from some of the new Star Wars where some moments running in front of the windows, pause, and I was like, that person has no nose. It was like completely in the face. I was like, please get out, this cannot happen in our movie. And he was like, no, absolutely, it would never happen. And it did not happen. You know, we really avoid any of those you could consider those like stuff that people get away with, but both of us were like not on our town. We were not going to do that. So
we embraced space screen is what I called it. Yeah, we're just going to keep everything black outside. You know, knowing that these days artists don't do a lot of keying anymore. They tend to rely on roto. You know, Ellen was our primary go-to, and they said, well, we roto everything anyway. I'm like, then why would we bother with process screen? It doesn't help except for hair reasons. So, yeah, we just embrace black.
We did screens. We used them for some of the shots you see of the ship. You know, like all the spaceships is a real model that Ian Hunter. That's not here today, but Ian Hunter built all the ships.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the miniatures, because I like to say, because I'm a former model builder and I still build models to this day, miniatures are always an option. Sometimes they're not the most efficient option, but nothing beats walking onto a stage or a model shop and seeing something tactile, come to life.
Well, the thing is, like, what I've been, even to your question of the studio, if they push back or not, for me, I didn't even went to the studio to tell them, let's do a practical because it looks better. That's you don't want to go there because it becomes this whole discussion, and particularly with the creatures, space, we're gonna do those shots, in a practical way. I think that level of detail, the planet it's just uncanny. It's incredible, and it has to be done digital. But for certain things that we knew had to be practical, my discussion wasn't that. My discussion had to do with the actors and the performance. When they have that monster that Shane created, that if you take the skin off, it's even scarier. It's this machine that is really aggressive, when you see it moving. So you have them in front of their faces. It just puts them there. It's a great experience for the actors. It's real. It's not a tennis ball in front of their face. It's something real. So it makes a massive difference for the performances. The interactions, and I would argue, all the interactions of the smoke and the fluids between them, it's really hard to reproduce digitally. I mean, because you have all this smoke flowing and going around the creatures, and all that little detail makes it so much real. But most of all is the actors, and it's for me that what I was telling is the experience that had to do with me being excited, inspired, can't wait to go see it, can't wait to go see what Shane did today, to see that process of creating a world that you can actually film. That's what you want. So the more you can build them, the more you can do the things, it just really makes everybody involved in the movie kind of be so happy to be there. You have an idea. This was something that everybody on set in the process of movies, you could see the passion for it, because what everybody was saying all the time was like, wow, they didn't remember seeing a set built with ceilings and that you could actually be there. So it made such a difference. So the discussions are really never about what is, when you look at the screen at the end, what looks better, because they might argue a lot of times, and they might be right that some things may be accomplished digitally without most people notice it. But for me, that's not the discussion really. It's really about what is. There's something almost holy about watching something real versus something that might have not been there today, and you can note it. Right?
And I would imagine in the editing room, it makes things a lot better because you can see the picture a lot sooner. It's there in dailies. And I'm sure that's immensely satisfying.
We had
and then
I think
when you're
director's cut was ready, and we tested it. You could watch the movie right from the beginning to end. You could watch. There was some empty, maybe shots there towards the end, and it has more previous there. But for the most part, you could really enjoy the movie. Really, it's not as close as what this is today, obviously, because all the amazing work that came later. But at least at the first run of the film, you got a film that you could play, and you weren't missing much. Right?
So Shane, in the intervening time from Aliens, there's been Jurassic Park, there's been a lot of advances both in the materials and the techniques, as well as sort of merging, digital stuff. What were some of the changes that you sort of noticed, as you were working on the Xenos?
Well, it's been many, many years, and every decade, and I actually it's getting sooner now, like from let's say Terminator 2, when the the creation of the T-1000 is a predominantly CGI character, and then Jurassic Park really created an entire new avenue of effects companies around the world, CGI contingencies of all sorts of things. So,
but I should point out, Jurassic Park was still a fantastic blend of the practical.
well,
as well
the
as
ratio was 70% live and 30% digital back then. Today it's completely, it's a big switch, but that's okay. It should be like that. But in the meantime, we have to employ the digital arts as well, in terms of how it's sculpted, how it's rapid prototyped, how it's engineered, how the mechanical engineering is advanced, the robotic systems. It's so much more advanced than it was.
And you're using your own set of digital tools.
Well, yeah,
for all of that.
Yeah, it's completely. I mean, we're sculpting in the computer. It's a very, very different world than '86, which was very tactile, hand done by clay and mold making and things like that, and very simple hydraulics for the Queen, like big steering wheels, like big things like that, big cranes that John Richardson made and things. But they were all very effective because we didn't have a backup. We didn't have a backup plan. You couldn't say, well, we're going to remove these wires, or we're going to remove these performers in this shot or this rig, because we didn't have that option. So you had to hide everything. You had to frame it out. And that's a big advantage for us today, where I can say to Eric, like, we're going to need a digital tail. So in the very beginning, we would say, like, these tails are nearly 13 feet long. There's no way that we can make, in the time we need, overhead rigging for puppeteering. These tails need to be puppeted. There are a couple times when we've wrapped them around actors and just hoisted them on wires a few times in the film. But the dexterity of them are not that, so they're always added to the Xenos. So there's ways to combine things which are just really, really great. The materials alone, though, silicones and clear materials that we didn't have back in '86 are so far advanced, and I wish I had them. I nearly burned Pinewood down because I was trying to make the Queen's face clear. You all know it now, but I didn't tell anybody then. But I just about burned it down because I promised a clear skin to Jim and Stan. And the only material was called hot melt. And it came out it was like coffee colored, and it didn't flex very much. And I couldn't get that sub level of Giger-like skeleton underneath. And Stan was really angry, and I tried one more time, and I took it up to the catwalks because it stunk really bad. It was really toxic, and it was a terrible workshop we were in. So I took it to the vent, up to the catwalks with a hot plate just by myself, and of course it blew over and caught on fire, and I'm like, this is it. I'm burning down Pinewood. So then I went back to foam rubber, and so that her skin is foam rubber, but it's painted to look translucent. That's always bothered me. That's when I say to Fede, we finally get to improve upon all of these things, like the tendons on the face, and all the engineering of the mechanisms and things like that are far, far advanced from them.
So, Eric, can you talk a little bit about sort of the cooperation between special effects, mechanical effects, and digital? There's a big, great scene where there are, zero gravity. It starts off early, which looks fairly simple, and it's a setup for, that whole sequence in the end when they have to go down the hallway.
Those zero-G sequences are one of the reasons I did start so early, to answer your other than a breakdown, a previous question, because we really used every technique there was for those, from guys in suits, wires. We had a 5-story horizontal set for the elevator. We also had a 2-story vertical set, all rigged with wires that we'd have to replace things on. full CG shots, full CG rain, or in some cases Andy.
And the acid.
And yeah, of course, the acid. So each shot really kind of dictated what we needed, what the action that Fede needed. So it was really a marriage, constantly of as much as we can in camera, and then the shots we know we have to not get in camera or make more dynamic that we would take over or enhance.
So speaking of working hand in hand, mechanical effects and visual effects, let's talk a little bit about Rook, because that really is let's talk about a synthetic. It's a synthetic shot. It's a synthetic approach to how to get this character, Ian Holm, who's passed away, back into the alien universe. And let's, start, I guess, at the beginning. There was obviously a conversation with the estate of Ian Holm, and I think that's important to state that they were involved, in this as well. They were a participant. It was not just some deep fake thing that pulled off.
No, we would never done it that way. It was Ridley and I talking about the character of Rook. The page was, just this character. We didn't know. We didn't say anything about Ian Holm at the time. But then when we knew the first approach was going to be, we were going to have Shane building a real animatronic, and Alec Gillis actually did a part 3 with Lance Henriksen. Put it on the torso on the table for a moment there. And so I thought, we could do that. And so when we were going to build it, it was like, well, whose face is going to have, because you're just going to build it, so it has to be anybody specifically. And that talking with Ridley, we came up with this idea of having had a lot of synthetics coming back and a lot of actors playing different synthetics in the franchise. We thought it was unfair that Ian Holm, which is the best of them all, never had a comeback, and we never saw that model again. So Brie and I loved the idea, and the first thing was make sure that the state was okay with it, and they felt like Ian would have loved to get the call to be involved in the Alien movie again, so to give us good to go, and then the whole process was it was at the end of the day my approach was always we all agree that it's supposed to be a malfunctioning android on the table. So even if we don't get this complete human-like result, which I think we always knew can be really hard to get, it's it's a good excuse. He's supposed to be not functional and organ. And we went back and forth, kind of dialed it back and up and down how much digital it was and how much real it was, because Shane can tell you about it, but they went and found a head cast from Ian Holm from the late 90s from The Lord of the Rings. They start from there, and then by hand they actually sculpt. The likeness was uncanny on the animatronic, and then for the lips. And once we started getting too greedy with trying to get the lip sync, get the things and more life to adjust the animatronic, some shots fall too much on digital stuff. That sometimes work great, sometimes not so well. But there's some of the shots that you saw there that is full on just the animatronic. There's one of them that I love at the end of one of the runs where they run out of the room and they all fight and they push into his face. He does a smirk. That is 90% the animatronic that Shane built with a perfect touch of Eric, digital eyes there just to get more expression. So that was, but it was a whole journey, and it was the most ambitious part of the effects that we were trying to do.
So Eric and Shane, take us through sort of the development of that. Did you obviously went into this knowing that it would be a blend of the two techniques, but did you know how far you were going to go? Did you know that the animatronic was going to be trying to recite dialogue, or?
Well, sure. Rook was originally a female character, and like Fede said, it was a completely different take. And this Rook call came in Friday at 5 o'clock.
And it was needed on set Tuesday.
Yeah. But it was the most challenging thing because it was a great idea and we loved it. And then we have to figure out how to do it because Ian is deceased. I think he was 43 in 79, and we had searched for any head cast or molds that might have survived from the first film, but there weren't any that we knew of. So we didn't have a basis to make his face from that era, a life cast and life casts survive a long time. I have one of Frederick March from 1932. There's many that you can find if you're lucky. But the head cast we got his age was 77. But it gave us the proportions of his ears, his nose, his mouth. And then one of our artists did a clay portrait sculpture from photographs. And you get as close as you can. And I would say to these gentlemen, I'd say, we'll get as close as we can in the time remaining that we have to build this, because it's difficult, and we're going to need assistance. We're going to, otherwise we're gonna fail, because there's only so much you can do with that. But that was the plan, and I think the plan came together quite well.
Yeah, we're very fortunate that we got the 4K scans from the original film for Ian, and that was a guide for all of us, as well as for the training data we needed. Initially on set, I approached it a little bit more 3D, because we had this kind of goop, white goop that comes out of his face as he's talking, and I want to make sure we could capture some of that and blend it back into our final solve, whatever that may be, whether it was 3D or a 2D approach. And ultimately we went with Metaphysic because of what they could do, and they were able to blend all of that together. They were able to retarget the eyes to fix the eye lines. They were able to dial the performance back, or the performer we captured with the head cam, and his voice we could then retarget on using their tools, and Fede could see it, say a little less of this, a little more of that, give a quicker eye line or a blink, and their tools were fantastic for us to be able to do that, so you could really kind of direct the performance.
I'm going to tell something about the collaborations too that I love, is that, because you always have that kind of, discussion, practical versus digital. It's like you have to either push one and...
You know what, we should get rid of the verses in there.
Exactly, but that's what I love about this conversation here between these two, because they almost represent two sides of the thing, because it's their job. But then I will go to Shane and go, okay, we gotta do this thing this way. And Shane goes like, no, let's get Eric to do that. Let's get Eric to do that. I was like, you're supposed to push for the practical. I was like, no, I don't know if that. Get it. Then Eric will do the same the other way around. I was like, what should do is like, I think honestly it's better if Shane takes care of that part. So I love that it wasn't about themselves and their ego and what their flag is. It was really about what is the best for the shot, and they were both great at that. I understand that it's not just about doing it your way, but just really trying to find what's the best technique.
And so the baby hybrid at the end, I love the fact that there's still, the very tall person that you found. Tell everybody how you. I know how.
My co-writer found this basketball player from Michigan online, and we look at it. I couldn't believe it's 7'7". And I first thought it's crazy. I'm just gonna go get someone from Michigan and teach him how to become this thing. And I showed it to Shane, and Shane was like, "That's it, no more." I was like, "Well, this guy's been doing it for a while, so I'll go with his, follow his lead." So I reached out to him. He loved the idea. He was very aware about Alien, loved those movies, and so we put him through acting school and movement coach, and because. Like I was telling him on the day, like being tall is one talent, is one thing, but to be able to do what he did, to really perform, I cannot do that. I'll be laughing if I'm, in front of someone, like trying to pretend I'm a monster and stuff. And he was completely gave in to the role. A lot of it, I think, really helped. All the prosthetics that Shane and his team created for him really made him disappear inside the role. Those masks always help. And he really gave it all, and it was exhausting for him. It was a very tough shoot, and it was his first movie. He didn't know anything about the process of filmmaking, right? So, but I tell you, you've never seen anything like it. I mean, even hopefully the what we captured there will give you an idea, but for us on set, it was like you see him come and you wouldn't believe it, right? It was really truly magical.
To talk to him.
Yeah, he will. I mean, for me, and I'm a tall guy, but he was up there. I would just show him something on an iPad, and when we're done, true story. He's a really, really tall guy, but a total sport. He took all those hours in the chair with you, just to get him there, and it was true something.
How much of his creature was makeup, and how much of it was mechanical? I mean, were there arm extensions or leg? I mean, it was all him.
No, there's no arm or leg extensions. That's him. And he's wearing about 13 individual pieces of silicone prosthetics. And a lot of his skin is exposed because Fede wanted most of his skin to be exposed to see the veins and to see the tautness of the muscles and such. So
the tail was CG.
The tail is CG, which is great, and the tongue that comes out. He had a reference tongue that was on set that he could put in his mouth, which is just a kind of a lighting reference piece. And but the hands are long, the fingers are long. You know, they go on as gloves so that you can cut down the makeup time. Because you have to think, part of my job is to design it so that it can be accomplished in a certain amount of hours. He's already in an uncomfortable situation, just naturally. So we strove for a 3.5 hour mark for that makeup so we could get him to set so that he could shoot for 9 hours or whatever you had. And then
take it all off.
You have to take it all off. You know, I had a special chair built there for him by the construction team because a makeup chair like what you're sitting in now doesn't even, that's like his foot could rest in that.
Yeah.
And it was really great because it had arm extensions. And 6 of us worked on him at the same time to accomplish the makeup. So like there were 2 people on each arm, 2 people on the legs, 1 on the back, 1 on the, you know, it was like everyone working at once.
It was funny that some people, when they saw it the first time, said something to me like when they saw the dailies, it's like, "Why does it's so magical that he looks CG." I was like, "What did you say?" This is supposed to be a compliment.
Well,
it was like it was so out there, and like and still people like someone told me that the other day. It was like, "Wow, that CG creature at the end," and then you go, like, "Sure, whatever you want to believe." But and then there was a CG version of him, of course. But what I love about all the CG approach in general has been it always started from something real. Like there was a for the asset at the end of the way they did, I think an incredible job in the all outside of the ship shots. But they all started with a scan of his body, and the same with the ships that you see outside. They started with a scan of something that was built by hand and paid by hand. So I think that's what I love about the movie and the whole approach. It's a perfect marriage of both techniques and the Offspring was the same. It was a really great marriage of the 2 approaches.
Okay, so Ben, you're up.
Question from Twitter in Georgia. How much previs was used for this one? And can we maybe expect a little more of the first Aliens journey in the director's cut?
How much previous?
I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, well, one of the things, and I think we made this movie for $80-something million. So hopefully you guys think that it looks bigger than that. I think it does.
It certainly does.
And a lot of it was it was all our team being as effective as we could be throughout the whole process of post, mostly, right? Of really being effective. And it was such a school for me to learn from Eric and the process of VFX and post. And I come from a digital background. I don't know if you guys know, but I did a short movie called Panic Attack 10 years or something ago about giant robots destroying 1/3 of my city. But I did all the visual effects myself. I still do I think I did a couple shots of this movie as well when we ran out of money. There's a list of the shots that we couldn't afford, and they will send it on my plate, and I'll do them myself. So it's my favorite part to be involved with the visual effects as well. And one of the things I think really helped was that all the previs of all the ships, all the flying, all the exterior stuff, the companies will give us the assets. Eric's will send to me, and then on 3D Studio on my computer, I will do the previs, put them together, the shot. I felt it would be more, I will shoot them exactly how I would shoot them if I was on set, right? Whatever is the technique or the approach on where I think the camera should be and what the camera should or shouldn't do, it will be exactly as if what I was shooting it. So I put the camera, I do the shitty version, right?